All right, it's your boy D. I'm here with my man T, and this is Saturday Morning Traffic, the greatest podcast, not the latest podcast. And today on our full court series, Point Guard Edition, we're debating Chris Paul versus Jason Kidd. A lot of people see that comparison and be like, what? Them two? Nah, can't really see it. But believe it or not, Jason Kidd was Chris Paul before Chris Paul was Chris Paul. One person walks, so the other person can run. But yeah, we got a special guest today. My man, Dr. Ortiz, he's been keeping it lit for a while, saving lives, preaching to preach, talking to talk, and doing what he got to do. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump into this debate.
All right. Yep. Devon, great personal friend of mine. He was on episode, I believe it was the first episode, and he's so good that we had to bring him back. Hey, there he is. How's it going, Devon?
Welcome to the show. Thank you guys for having me.
Always. Most definitely. Always a pleasure.
Appreciate you guys allowing me to come back.
Absolutely. Tell them what you're doing recently.
Doing a lot of stuff. Obviously, working at the church, Victory Baptist Church in Fremont. Just started a podcast with watches. I'm a avid watch collector, and nice. So started a podcast on Spotify and Apple podcast called the Horologian Watch podcast there. So if you want to tune into that, you can as well.
Definitely.
Oh, most definitely.
That's awesome.
I'm tired of buying watches from Fred Meyer, so yeah, definitely. I'll check that out.
Sweet.
But yeah, we're here for the Jason Kidd versus Chris Paul debate. So without further ado, let's get into it, guys. All right, Devon, it's that moment. Who are you picking?
Well, honestly, I think that there's no debate that Chris Paul is the better scorer. I believe they're pretty much equal when it comes to assists. Both of them were perennial all defensive first-team players. However, I think there's one main factor between the two of them. Actually, there's a couple of factors, but one main factor between the two of them. And I think that has to do with the fact that Jason Kidd was not only a great point guard who could pass the ball, shoot the ball, and manage the game, but he was also someone who you can expect to grab boards and even defend the best player on the court. And so I'm gonna go ahead and put Jason Kidd as my pick here.
Go ahead, D.
I like a lot of the things Jason Kidd did. I personally, watching the stretch of his career and seeing how he went, I think he took the fundamentals of basketball and his talent developed faster. But I also feel like with Jason Kidd, you get great basketball, but I don't necessarily think that you get a great teammate in the same breath when it comes to that. Because there was times where Jason Kidd led his team to the finals, but he did it by himself. And I feel like in that aspect, he was missing a lot of pieces. Now, as far as Chris Paul's concerned, which is the person I'm rocking with, Chris Paul's a great basketball player. He can score. He can facilitate. His IQ is where it needs to be. He's gonna be ranked top 10 when it's all said and done. But the biggest knock against Chris Paul is he a good teammate? Because you hear pretty much everywhere he goes, it's a gripe and complaint. Oh, well, he wants this, he wants that, such and such, this, that, and the third. But at the end of the day, like I said, I'm rocking with Chris Paul. I think Jason Kidd is fantastic. I think he's underrated, and I don't think he gets credit for what he's done to the game. But at the end of the day, Chris Paul to me is a better scorer. He's more efficient, and I feel like I can get more bang for my buck at the end of the day.
I feel you, D. I'm definitely I'm going Jason Kidd. Not because we live out here in the Bay, right, Devon?
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
He was born in the SF, man. No, I would have to, like I said, I'm going with Jason Kidd for many reasons. Like Devon, piggyback on Devon saying, 10-time All-Star, 5-time assist champ. He won that 2010-2011 championship with Dirk, which, I don't think that they were the worst team. I think they were the worst team. I think Miami should have won that, but that's a different argument for a different day. 6-time All NBA, 9-time All Defense, same as Chris Paul as well. and then Rookie of the Year. And that I believe that was the first year or it ever happened where it was shared Rookie of the Year too. It's kind of a weird thing, right, Devon? Was that right? That was like the first year that's ever happened.
I think so. That it was a rare year that year.
Yeah, I mean, like because you guys know I'm the stats guy, right? So I mean, Jason Kidd's second in assists all time, second in steals all time, fourth in triple doubles all time. And this doesn't surprise me actually. 10th in threes all time, which is kind of surprising. Third most triple doubles in the playoffs all time. 1 and 2 in the NBA Finals. 3 conference championships. 2 in the East, 1 in the West. And what I really was surprised by this as well is there are 16 players that have had the incredible 15,000 points, 5,000 rebounds, 5,000 assists. And that's Kareem, Bird, Kobe, Clyde Drexler, KG, Havlicek, LeBron, Magic, Jordan, Jason Kidd, Gary Payton, Karl Malone, Pippen, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, and Lenny Wilkins. But out of all of them, only Jason Kidd is the only player in NBA history to have 17,000 points, or 15,000 points, 10,000 assists, and 7,000 rebounds. So that's like incredible to be even recognized like that. And what I think is he wasn't particularly great at one thing. He was just so well-rounded at everything. What do you think about that?
Jack of all trades, master to none. All I heard from what you were saying is a lot of second place this, third place this, second place this, top 16. Who does a top 16 in the first place? Who's doing that? Do you go to McDonald's and order a 16-piece nugget? No, you go to McDonald's and order a 10.
That's 16 players.
Let me finish.
No.
No, let me finish.
All right, go ahead.
You trying to give me like you did last? No, look. Like I said, you get jack of all trade, master to none. The dude is, like I said, he's not a bad player. He's fantastic. But to be good at everything and not really master one aspect of your game, what are you really playing for? He won a ring at the tail end of his career. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. However, here's the thing. He played in a completely different era than where Chris Paul's playing. The defensive schemes were much different when Jason Kidd was playing. And so he had to diversify how he played, because if he was all offensive, his whole game, especially in the teams that he played with, those teams would have suffered. But by him being able to pass the ball and then be able to shoot the three and drive the ball in, and then be a defensive threat as well as grab boards, it allowed him to always be a threat no matter what he was doing on the court. Now, I'll say this about Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a far more dynamic player than Jason Kidd ever was.
Yeah. Chris
Paul is way more athletic. Chris Paul has a better knack at getting into the defensive teeth and pulling apart their defense far more than Jason Kidd ever was able to do.
Yeah.
Chris Paul is I personally think he's a much better shooter. Now, over the lifetime, I think Jason Kidd has been able to build up his three-point because he started off in the league. He wasn't a great shooter. He built that up to become a great shooter. Chris Paul's a way better shooter than Jason Kidd ever was. But here's where it gets me. 2011, when they're in the finals, what you already alluded to it, Tony. We were talking about how you didn't think Dallas was a good enough team to get over Miami. Well, what separated them from being able to get over that hump? Jason Kidd defended LeBron. Jason Kidd stifled LeBron. We're talking about the point guard stifling the 6'8", 260-pound beast. And that is something you can't put on a Chris Paul. That's something you can't put on most point guards. The fact that he can be that diverse in his game, that his scoring suffered, but the fact that he can take this different aspect of his game and make it completely draw out a W, even though his team wasn't near as good.
One thing I want to add to that is, Jason Kidd, 19 years in the NBA, right? I mean, 17 times he went to the playoffs. Like, went to the conference title championship 3 times. And then when they went to the NBA, obviously he played the Heat, but also played prime Lakers, Shaq and Kobe. They weren't going to win that series. Then for Tim Duncan in his prime with the Manu and Tony Parker, like they weren't going to win that series either. So it's kind of like the teams he went up with against were really tough teams, So that's pretty impressive by itself. Where I think that Clipper team that Chris Paul was on versus the New Jersey Nets team that Jason Kidd was on, I think the Clippers had a much better team. Oh, yeah. And they had a better shot because that's right before the Warriors started to rise up, right? So definitely I think he's had Chris Paul has had better players around him, just like in Houston with James Harden, that whole crazy offense they had, and now it's kind of like sitting back now with OKC, through his final years.
Yeah, I think as far as like durability and like endurance, as far as that's concerned, I think Jason Kidd definitely takes the cake on that one because he's been in the NBA for a very long time, and like Ortiz, like Dr. Ortiz said, he played in a different era, so he was his obviously was balling in different circumstances. But I also think if you were to role switch and put Jason Kidd Chris Paul where Jason Kidd was, and Jason Kidd where Chris Paul is in their primes, I personally think that Chris Paul is going to do a lot better. I feel like his game allows him to adapt a lot faster versus, like I said, being great at a whole bunch of things at once. I feel like he's a more efficient scorer versus being a better scorer. I feel like if I tell Chris Paul, hey, we're playing Miami tonight, and I need you to go out there and give me 15. He might not give me 15. He might just give me 9 or 8. But he might pop up with 7 assists and 2 steals. And those 7 assists could be those game-changing points that could really give me my W. Now, as far as Jason Kidd is concerned, I might just get a couple flashy passes, and I might get my 25, but we're really 15 in the hole by the time the fourth quarter comes down, and we got 5 minutes to go. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, and honestly, I think as I'm pulling for, because Jason Kidd was my boy, growing up in Oakland. If you even look at the picture that we have here of Jason Kidd, the rubber band on the right on the wrist there, that was me. I had the rubber band on the wrist. I bought his shoes when he first came out. I was following him in college. This was my boy. Like I wanted to be Jason Kidd when I played ball, and even today, when I go play ball at 24 or whatnot, I want to play like Jason Kidd because that he was a dog when you were playing. But to say that if the roles were reversed, that Chris Paul would go further, the only thing that I have against that is the fact that Jason Kidd, he had to literally will his team. This is when the East was actually pretty decent at the time, and and the West was. I mean, the West has been stacked for as long as I can remember, but the East was actually pretty decent, and he had to go through some pretty tough teams to get through the East, and to come against the Lakers and these teams that he had to go against, and he did that primarily on his own back, and a lot of what he did, I don't think Chris Paul could do, because what he was doing was he was doing some heavy lifting, some grunt work. Chris Paul is he can ball and he can give you some aggression, but he's a finesse player.
Yeah.
Jason Kidd is a what was he, 6'4"? He's 6'4", but he plays like he's 6'6". He's strong. He's built. He was never that fast, but he was just strong enough to be able to be durable and push bigger guys through. And I just don't think that Chris Paul would have been able to do that in if you were to mix the roles.
I think the best way to compare Jason Kidd and Chris Paul is like comparing cauliflower to broccoli. They look the exact same. They serve the exact same purpose, but if you really did your research and look, they're very different. They're very different in different aspects. So, with that being said, I feel like the defining characteristic between these two, as far as Chris Paul and Jason Kidd go, I just feel like Chris Paul by far to me, and I'm not going to say by a crazy long shot, is the better player. But as far as mindset, Mamba mentality characteristics, like the hunter, apex predator type aspect, it definitely goes to Jason Kidd. I feel like that's what defines these two. It's definitely the characteristics, because the balling, the basketball, I can give that to Chris Paul. That's not hard to do. But like I said, as far as drawing the line, because Jason Kidd had to carry a team to the finals twice. And he carried a team to the finals twice against a team that nobody should be able to beat in history. The LA Lakers, Shaq and Kobe, the dynamic duo, the best 1-2 punch in NBA history. So for him to be able to do that says a lot about his game and his character. Granted, you're doing it with a crap team, and the team wasn't that great that he was playing with. But like I said, if we were, because you know how what ifs work, obviously it's never happened. But like I said, if we were to switch those roles, I feel like maybe the first one, Chris Paul wouldn't have necessarily got it. That second one, he's coming back with his guns loaded, cocked and ready to shoot. But like I said, if we're really gonna differentiate the two, it's not about basketball; it's about characteristics. And I feel like Jason Kidd has that eye of the tiger, much less than Chris Paul, because Chris Paul's been on teams that were fantastic. When he played in Houston, and he was playing with not Jason Kidd. He was playing with James Harden. He had a lot of firepower with him. I mean, granted, James Harden's not the best player to play with, but he had a lot of firepower with him. So, in all retrospect, when that's being said, there's really no room for excuses. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Jason Kidd made the most of this situation with the little bit that he did have. But all in all, I'm still going to choose Chris Paul.
Yeah, with Chris Paul, I give him a knock on that Game 7 conference finals against the Warriors, where I forgot who was out. The Warriors were without one of their stars, and they're playing at home, but then they go 1 for 30 from 3. Like, you're playing at home, but you continue. You're like Devon and D. You know this. If you keep shooting threes, but you missing, stop shooting them. Get to the hole. Get to the rack. Get the foul. I think that's a big knock on his career, and the fact that James Harden just wailing trying to get fouls instead of actually playing the game. So I don't give Chris Paul the whole blame because it's both of their team. But that's a big knock for me with them because I think that was their year. I think they come out of the West. I think they beat the Cavs. I definitely truly believe that. And then I just think Jason Kidd overall is the more well-rounded player than Chris Paul, except of the scoring. But everything else, the assists, the steals, the rebounds, the other little things, I think goes to Jason Kidd. Obviously, it's a different era, so there was more scoring, how they spread the floor. Now it's, especially with the point guard position now, that's why he's getting more shots than Jason Kidd was back then too. Because you look at Chris Paul getting like 15, 20 shots at least, where Jason Kidd was getting 9 to 10 shots because he was more wanting to get people involved.
Mm-hmm.
That was just the era.
I think back then, like when Jason Kidd was playing, basketball was kind of, slowly diverting and changing into something different. Like the defense aspect of basketball was slowly being pushed to the back and the offense was being pushed more forward. Like they say this a lot, like, do you think Trae Young would have been able to play basketball back then versus how he's playing now. And everybody was like, absolutely not. Trae Young's he's a scoring point guard. He's gonna give you 30 to 45. And he can give you 30 to 45 in this era, but he's not gonna be able to do that back then because a lot of the point guards back then didn't necessarily have to score. They knew how to facilitate. They knew how not even that. They knew how to score and move the ball.
Yeah.
There's point guards that from our generation that play similar to how point guards played back when Jason Kidd was in his heyday.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? Like if you look at Bradley Beal can score all day. Bradley Beal can score all day.
Yep.
But guess what? Bradley Beal doesn't need the ball to be efficient on a team. He doesn't need the ball.
Like Klay Thompson.
Exactly. But that's a shooting guard, but you get what I'm saying. Is it shooting guard or small forward?
They're both shooting guards. Bradley
but
Beal
you get what
and
I'm
Klay.
saying, though.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Exactly. Those are players that don't need the ball to make a statement. And I feel like Jason Kidd is one of those players. He doesn't need the ball to make a statement. But I also feel like when it comes to Chris Paul, as soon as he steps on that court, you gotta bring your A game. You know you gotta bring your A game.
So the key question,
even Kobe said, and you were talking about Mamba mentality and how Jason Kidd kind of has that mentality. Well, I think Chris Paul actually has more of that mentality. It's kind of what made him kind of a hard player to play with, because and I'll give him credit. He had to play with some pretty tough players. I mean, he played with James Harden. And he made it work for those couple of years. I mean, the first year I don't think he was that great. The second year, I think he was pretty. I think he was pretty good. And then that third year, I think that's when things all blew up.
Mm-hmm.
I think he kind of regressed again. But I'll give him a lot of credit for being able to play with those players. But that Mamba mentality, as great as it is, it's also a detriment. And it was a huge detriment to Chris Paul. Jason Kidd, on the other hand, he was all about winning, even if it affected his stats and in particular his scoring. And he would find other ways to implement himself. Now, Chris Paul, he can pass the ball and get in the game there, but when you're playing with like a James Harden, at that point that's not going to work, because James Harden's going to want that ball so much. And so and then when he was playing with Chris Paul was playing with the Clippers, I think it was difficult for him to get along with guys like Blake Griffin, who was
Doc Rivers.
And Doc Rivers, Doc Rivers himself, a point guard, and he's going to want to, he's got his own idea of what a point guard should be, where Chris Paul is a new type of point guard. See, Jason Kidd came before Allen Iverson. I think he was a couple years before Allen Iverson. Jason Kidd draft 94, Allen Iverson 96. And so Allen Iverson changed the league in becoming more offensive minded, more of let me get my shot. Chris Paul is part of that mindset. And that's where I think his scoring prowess is much better than Jason Kidd in that respect.
Yeah. And I think this mentality is also where Chris Paul is like, he's thinking of passing first, but he also knows, like, I can score this thing. I can drop 30, 40, 50 if I need to. I want to get my teammates involved, but I know I can do this. Where Jason Kidd, he was more of like, let me get everybody involved first. Let's play defense, and when I need to score, I'll score.
I think it's kind of like the group project mentality. Like, hey, you either go into a group project as a kid, when you guys all got to collectively come up and like all put your guys' skills and minds and skill set together. I think Chris Paul's coming into a more like, hey, I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna do the most work so I can take the most credit. And Jason Kidd's more like, man, I don't care who gets credit. I'm gonna make sure I can help everybody be the best them as far as building. As far as this group project is concerned.
Yeah.
And I think like I said, I think between them two it's more so Jason Kidd's like, I just want to play basketball, and Chris Paul's like, hey, I can do it too. Hey, Shaq can get 17 rebounds. I can do it too. Or Kobe can score 60 points. I can do it too. Or I seen this guy do a behind the back pass. I could do it too. You don't necessarily get that true PG like attitude mentality from Chris Paul. You kind of get that either way, no matter how this game goes, I'm gonna get what I need to get done. And it's like there's Mamba mentality and there's Melo mentality. You feel what I'm saying? Like we all know how Carmelo is. Carmelo, if I score my 35 and we lose by 40, I'm cool. I'm good.
Well, I think
I got my 35. I got my 35. You feel what I'm saying? So it's like it's a hard bargain to sell.
I think Melo gets a bad rap for that. Like I don't really think he fully thinks like that. I know like his beginning years were, but once he got older, he's like, dang, I need that ring. I think he's like, yeah, I'm gonna get mine, but it was more he's doing it for the love of the game.
Look what it took.
I know he was one of the
so to say that he wasn't, but to say that he wasn't necessarily thinking like that.
Not
up until now. No, listen. Up until now that he's on a team and he's okay with coming off the bench. In that time that he didn't play, look how much it took for him to get to that point. That's what I'm saying.
I'm gonna take this back to what a couple Knicks guys said, because Iman Shepherd, he was on one of these podcasts, and he said, "How was it playing with Melo?" He's like, "It was great, but if we mess up," he's like, "don't worry about it. I'll take the hit." Like during the game, getting like a fine or whatever. He's like, "Don't worry about it. You need to feed your family. I'll take the hit. I'm the man on this team. I'll do that for you." So that to me just shows you a lot of what his actual personality is off the court as a good being a good teammate, right? But like, so I definitely think one, he did get blackballed, and two, I think he gets like a bad rap for thinking that he's always selfish when it seems like he's not. If you talk to people he played with and people he played against,
I think the whole thing with Melo, this is kind of off topic, but when I had 2K 11 or 12, whichever two, you remember the 2K where you could pick like an NBA player and play my career. You remember that, right?
Yeah.
I took Carmelo. I took him off of the Knicks. I traded him to the Lakers, and I just balled out with him as much as I could. Carmelo's one of my favorite basketball players of all time. But the only knock against Carmelo is, and anybody can agree with this, when he played in New York, the year his contract was supposed to be up, he was supposed to go to the Pistons. He could have went to the Lakers. And he was also supposed to go to the Miami Heat the year that LeBron signed, and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, the year that they all linked up on that same team. That wasn't supposed to be Chris Bosh. That was supposed to be Carmelo Anthony. He turned down the deal because New York ended up offering him like $128 million over 4 years or $130 million. It was a large number of money that they offered him, and he ended up taking it. But like I said,
but you can't really blame him from taking it also because he's from New York. That's his hometown. So I mean,
I can blame you absolutely because before it's your hometown, your obligation is to win a championship. 128 million. 128 million is not going to make me stay in my hometown if my main goal is legacy. See, that's the thing about a lot of NBA. That's the thing about a lot of NBA players. Are you in it for the legacy? Or are you in it for the money? Like Damian Lillard's a perfect example of that. You've been playing on this team for how long? We all know you're never going to win a championship. But if that's not what you're focusing on, cool. But don't during the tail end of your career, when you're 35 and 36, and you're reaching that point where you're starting to look a little flimsy, a little funny in the light as far as your game is concerned, then you look like a ring chaser.
I would say getting a championship in New York or LA is larger than anywhere else. That would have put him definitely on the map where of status.
And Boston.
They have, in Boston. Those markets, you're basically legendary there. That's why like Bedard King, right, for the Knicks, that was the last time they won the championship. Shoot, Phil Jackson was on that team.
But I'll say this: that's a good D. You were talking about, either the money or the ring, but when you got 120 million staring at you, you begin to think, and you are one of the best basketball players in the game. You begin to think to yourself, you know what? I'm a really good baller. I can push, and maybe management puts a piece together or brings in someone. Maybe we can make this a championship team. And you'd be looking at that 120 million going, I can make it work. And if we have a couple losing seasons, you know, I've got 120 million that I could pillow my head on. And so, you know, and it's for us, because we're basketball fans, we look at it like you got to win the chip. But for them, this is their livelihood. And so it's not only a chip, but they're also looking at, okay, if for 120 million, I can invest 20 million of that into a company and turn that into 80 million. And I can, you know, I can put this in for college funds, and this can be for that. And immediately all these things come into play. When it comes, and I know we're way off topic right now, but
yeah, it's all good.
But personally, I thought Carmelo was going to be better than LeBron when coming into the draft year, because Carmelo had that year at Syracuse where he took them all the way to the championship. They won that year, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah, and they're at Syracuse, and honestly, Carmelo had more skill than LeBron coming into the NBA. He wasn't as athletic, he wasn't as strong, he wasn't as fast, but he had more skill. He could shoot the ball better. He had better footwork. And
more
so
polished.
personally, I thought, yeah, he was way more polished. So I thought, okay, Carmelo's going to be the way better ball player after, 5 years passed down. However, Carmelo, the thing that suffered Carmelo's game, which is still, I'm looking at these two players and wondering why we're talking about Carmelo. But the thing that Carmelo's career suffered from was just it was his own accolades. He was okay with winning scoring championships and okay with all-stars and making all these teams and having the popularity, but he just settled in that, and he wasn't willing to sacrifice in order to win the chip.
Right. Yeah. So let's get back on track between these two players. You guys ready to see what the Saturday morning traffic fans voted for? You ready for that?
Yeah. Let's see it. Let's see the hullabaloo, the nonsense.
All right, guys. Here is the polls. Who was better? We had about 25 people vote. We went from 6 people to 25 people, so we're getting more people here. Thank you, everybody. And it looks like Jason Kidd took home the award.
Yes.
What's your thoughts, D, for another loss?
I lose all the time, man. I lose my keys. I lose my wallet. I lost my girlfriend a couple years ago. Like, I lose all the time, bro. Like, I'm used to losing. It's okay. I'm okay with the L's, because guess what? You can turn those losses into lessons. And I will win. I will find a W, and I will be successful. My mama told me yesterday, she said, son, I seen your podcast. You've been losing a lot lately, but I baked you some cookies. And I told her, I said, Mama, I don't like cookies. She's like, I baked you some cookies anyway. I said, see, I lost again because you made me something I didn't want. But look, it's okay. Jason Kidd, hey, shout out to you. It's cool. It's fantastic. I'm still picking Chris Paul. I'm gonna find a way to hack his information to get his phone number so I can call him and tell him to check our podcast out. But yes, I'm picking Chris Paul every single day, all the way. So that 33% just means 33% more love for Chris Paul. That's how I look at it.
Hey, but Devon, did you even think Chris Paul was gonna win? Because I knew he wasn't. So.
You know what? Honestly, I looked at some other sites because there is some other sites that have these two matched up. And honestly, on the 3 other sites that I've seen, they have Chris Paul winning. And so I honestly thought it was going to be a closer outcome on this because Chris Paul, obviously, he's in our minds fresh right now. And not only that, but he had a resurgence this past year, and so I think that everyone's kind of on a high with Chris Paul.
Right. Yeah, no, Devon, we thank you for coming on, and hopefully when we do the shooting guard edition, you'll be on as well.
Definitely. Anytime. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Most definitely. I'm excited. I can't wait. They don't even know what's in store for the shooting guard edition, man. It's about to be crazy.
Hella crazy. All right, guys. So that was the great debate. As you saw, the polls were in. We know who won, Jason Kidd. But I know, D, you can still change your mind, man. You can still come to the –
I'm not changing my mind. Stop asking me. I'm not changing it. It's Chris Paul to the wall. Oh, God. That's how I feel. I feel
last episode, you changed your mind. You said Russell Westbrook. Then you went back to D Rose.
Nah, man. See, last episode, you tried to give me that's fake. No, you supposed to be my friend, and you on the other side. You messing with the ops, bro. You supposed to be my friend. But, yeah, man, that's Saturday Morning Traffic. It's your boy D. I'm here with my man T. Make sure y'all like, share, comment, subscribe, dislike. You let our haters be our motivators. You know how the spiel go. This, that, and the third, such and such. You know what I'm talking about? But, yeah, that's the podcast, man. It was dope. We want to give a big shout-out to Dr. Ortiz for coming through, you know what I'm saying, being a fantastic guest because we are great hosts, and we do have the most. We don't have to brag or boast. But if you got some champagne, go ahead and toast. But, yeah, let me get up out of here, man. I'm being extra right now. Peace.